Hello, everybody, as you are filing in. Thank you for joining us and also for putting up with our security measures. We're trying the hardest we can to be as secure as we can so that way we don't have any unfortunate incidents, as we know have been happening a little bit with some Zoom stuff. You are about to hear the musical stylings for a little bit of Michael Boezi of the Rockmores and also a key member of Boston for All. So I'm going to hand it right to Michael for a little while before we really start. All right. Michael, take it away.
Oh, I see people clapping. That's very nice. Thank you.
All right. Hello, Zoom folks. I need a little bit of help here. I'll bet somebody knows how to do this. So first of all, hello, I'm Jeremy. I promise we're going to get going really soon. But before we do, I seem to have an issue where the person who's supposed to be the MC, I'm happy to MC if it comes to it, but the person who's supposed to be the MC is not able to get in. He's like the only one who can't get in right now. Folks, give me about 2 minutes, and then I promise we're officially going to start. You are seeing the inside of what we didn't plan on happening here. So welcome to the fun. I promise it'll get much more exciting soon.
Daniel.
One moment.
I'm okay. I might have a little piece of yours.
All right, I can't do that. All right, hold on. Zoe, that's not working, but let me see if what else I can do for him.
Okay.
All right. Michael, let's play a little bit more music while I work on that, okay?
Very good. Will do.
Sorry, folks. Give me 2 minutes. We're going to figure this part out. Welcome. My name is Jeremy Fischer. Along with, some of you have already heard this before last time, but along with several friends in 2017, I helped to start a small organization called Boston for All. And what we do is we arrange events to raise money for really good organizations who are doing strong and effective work. And right now, we couldn't think of anything better than to help support those frontline healthcare workers who are doing so much work right now. So what we've done is, this is our second Inside Voices. By the way, I'm going to show off for a second, and you guys get to see it like it's in a mirror, because of course that's what Zoom does to us. But here is the Inside Voices logo. We just got our fancy t-shirts printed. I'm going to tell you this much: if you're interested in getting an Inside Voices t-shirt, email bostonforall@gmail.com. If we have enough people who are really interested, so that it's not really expensive for you to get a t-shirt, we'll make a run. We'll print a run for everybody who wants it. So if you're interested, let us know. I'm going to tell you this much right now as well, by the way. This thing here, I don't usually look like this, in case you were wondering. This is what we have. Oh, thank you. This is what we have in my family refer to as the social distache. So I just have to show it off because I just wanted to point it out in case you were wondering if I really was trying to become a circus strongman in the rest of my life. I'm not. That being said, I think the most important thing we can do is kick off this event and thank all of you for coming. We have already had a really strong showing in our fundraising. I'm going to check out the fundraising in a second to see exactly how much we have. But at this point, I do want to point, I would have had that too, but I'm just managing a little bit right now. So,
You're also on screen.
What's that, Michael?
I'll put it on screen.
Oh, somebody's over there. Oh, hold on. Somebody got unmuted. So at this point, I would like to go ahead and begin the process of actually calling out, of introducing our folks. So, hold on. I'm looking at the email that I sent that actually was for Andrew Turco to be reading off all the bios. But since he's not here, we're going to do this. So we are going to begin the night by welcoming Dana Jay Bein. Dana Jay Bein is a veteran comedian with a comedy studio and a comedy instructor based in and honored by the city of Cambridge for his 2 decades of work in the comedy arts. Dana Jay Bein recently went viral with Coronavirus Rhapsody, a parody of Bohemian Rhapsody, which has been featured on CNN, NBC, NPR, CBS This Morning, and Newsweek. So our first person to tell us a tale of the long run, of course honoring what would have been the Marathon Monday, is Dana Jay Bein.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Andrew, wherever you are. Thank you, Boston for All. Before I jump into stories, I do want to say that this is my first show since September, and I'm grateful to feel nervous about something that is completely unrelated to coronavirus, so thank you. That's very important to have normal anxiety again. I have not been on stage since September, but a month ago, as Jeremy mentioned, I did go viral with Coronavirus Rhapsody, which in my opinion is the world telling me that I don't belong on stage. For 20 years, I worked super hard and tirelessly on projects that nobody gave a shit about. And here I am in quarantine, in my underwear, and I shit out a song in 10 minutes and 100 million people have seen it. I get the message, world. You don't want me to do comedy. You want me to be Weirder Al. And here I am. I can say I am the first comedian that I know of to get famous without his pants off, without getting Me Too'd in some way, shape, or form. So I'm proud to still be on the right side of that. The way I interpret the long run is a little bit differently. I have a few different stories. For me, life is a long run. I'm not much of a runner myself. I want to send some love to anybody who is planning to watch or run the marathon and all of the marathon workers and volunteers. For me, life is my run. And I don't know about you. One of the things I run from constantly is shame and embarrassment. But tonight I'm not going to run from shame and embarrassment. I'm going to give you a few stories that include elements of shame and embarrassment, and just kind of open myself to you in hopes that you'll also share your stories of shame and embarrassment to help you connect with others who may do the same. So here we go. One of these stories is, well, you'll see. So the first story of my long run from shame and embarrassment is coming from 2004. For about 7 years, I was a district facilities manager for a company called H&M. It's a Swedish retailer. And what I did was anything that could break or need maintenance, I was responsible for those things in 27 stores in the Northeast. And I was qualified for none of that. I don't have a background in facilities management. I kind of backed into the role because retail doesn't care about safety. I was just doing a good job, and they put me in there, and I just did my best. And the hardest part about facilities management for me, other than that I knew none of what I was doing, is that everybody I had to work with knew more, including contractors that I had to hire for projects. And these contractors, if you've ever worked with a contractor, these are some tough, masculine dudes. And I don't know if you can tell by my haircut, that ain't me. Like, I am not a tough guy. So I'm in this world of tough guys, these blue-collar mafiosos who really want my work. They really want to be in my stores painting and doing electrical work and fixing the HVAC. And that was stressful for me. I had a company rule that if we had a project that was $2,500 or more, I had to get at least 3 bids before I could give that project to a contractor. And this one particular day, it was a Friday, I was working on an electrical project for one of the downtown Boston stores. And there was this one electrical contractor who, for all intents and purposes, was a bully, intimidated the hell out of me, tried to bully me into giving him work in our stores. And I didn't like talking to him on the phone. I didn't want to work with him because of his tactics, but I did let him give me bids. I mean, it's the best I could do. You can give me a bid and I'll let you compete. And this one Friday, almost the end of the day, he calls me up and I answer the phone reluctantly. And he goes, "Hey, Dana, am I going to get this electrical work in your downtown crossings or what?" And I'm intimidated. I'm frazzled. Like, tough guys scare the shit out of me. I'm no bones about, I am never going to be in the alpha race. I'm not even a beta. What's after beta? Omega? I don't know. Kappa? I'm one of those. So this guy is bullying me to get some work. And I'm trying to get off the phone because it's Friday. It's happy hour. I want to get out of there. And he's like, "You better get me a faxed, signed contract by the end of today or Monday morning." And I was like, "Listen, man, I got to go. I'll let you know by Monday." And I was so emasculated by this dude. When I tried to hang up the phone, I said, "I'll let you know by Monday, night, night." I said night, night to this tough guy on the phone. And the dude called me right back. He said, "Did you just say night, night?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I love you." And I hung up the phone. He called me right back. I was like, "You've got the work. You've got the work." So I altered the end of that story for comedy purposes, but it actually improved our relationship. He actually became closer to me, and our working relationship improved because I wasn't so ashamed of the fact that I said night, night to a guy who could probably bench press me. So that's the one shame story I'm not going to run from. This one's a little bit different. This one's a little bit more heartfelt. So my Uncle Joe was a guy who basically taught me how to be who I am. He taught me to have compassion for people who don't have what I have. He taught me to treat everybody the way you'd like to be treated. And he was more of a brother or a friend than he was an uncle. And in 2006, I lost my Uncle Joe to a battle with lung cancer. A few years prior to that, I want to say 2003 or 4, maybe the same year I dealt with this electrical contractor, I was pretty broke. And for Christmas, instead of buying gifts for my family, I decided to write sincere letters to my friends and family to let them know exactly what they meant to me. And I felt like this was the best way I could contribute to Christmas without, going into severe credit debt, without, spending beyond my means. And I was surprised to find out that this didn't jive with my family. I got shamed by quite a few people in my family for these letters. Some passive thank yous, some, I could just tell that this wasn't enough. And so I was pretty bummed about that. But my Uncle Joe loved the letter. He loved the letter, and he spared me from feeling ashamed. He spared me from being embarrassed. And I didn't realize how much he loved the letter until 2006, after he had passed. We were at his house cleaning up his bedroom, and I opened his top desk drawer, and under his wallet and his keys was my letter from 3 years prior. And I don't know if you've ever felt all emotions at once, but it was one of the most validating moments of my life, something that many people shame me for, but somebody who I really wanted to understand me did understand me. He took that letter. It meant as much to him as it meant to me, and it was where his important things were. So that was one of the best moments of my life. So that's another story that kind of has elements of shame and embarrassment. And I'm going to flip back to comedy, because that's probably what you expected from me. How dare you be sincere, you Muppet-looking freak. But I'm not going to give you what you expect. So this story is probably the most humiliating story of my life. And it's not politically correct. But I'm going to give it to you because we're adults and we're in lockdown, and here we are. You can see Steve Irwin and Sam the Eagle behind me. They're going to enjoy the story. They lived it. So I want to say 2014, I was working for a startup. It was a quirky small startup in Cambridge, and every month or so, they wanted to do a quirky team building exercise. And of course, because I'm the comedian, I'm just the de facto entry into whatever activity they decide. It doesn't matter how bizarre, absurd, how potentially dangerous it is. Dana's in. So they'd sign me up. This particular month, our CEO decided we were going to do a hot dog eating contest. And they're like, you're in. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. I can eat a lot. I've never done a hot dog eating contest or any eating contest in my life, but I was game. So lunchtime comes around, and the deal was you had to eat as many hot dogs as you could in 10 minutes, or you had to be the first to 15. You had to eat the dog, the bun, and you each had a little bin of water that you could dip them in. And I did not win the contest. I came in third. I ate 7 in 10 minutes. And the first 4, easy. But the last 3 were a struggle. Something they don't tell you when you watch eating competitions on TV, when you look at Kobayashi or Joey Chestnut, that's the end of their week. That's all they do. You're done. When you do an eating competition, shut it down. Dana Jay Bein didn't shut it down. Dana Jay Bein worked the rest of the day, and he had 2 comedy shows that night. So I worked the rest of the day. I went to a bar. I had a drink. I did a comedy show. I had another drink. I did another comedy show. And this girl I was seeing worked in Central Square, and she was texting me after my second comedy show to come to her bar so we could get a nightcap. And I was all about it. We had been dating very briefly, and we had not sealed the deal yet. So this could be the night. And I was super excited to have these 2 shows, couple of drinks, this girl that wants to hook up. So I go to this bar. She's there. She gets me a shift drink. She gets me a shot. We're drinking. We're having fun. We're headed back to her place. And I'm feeling it. I feel good. Good things are coming. We get to her place, and we don't waste any time. Clothes start to come off. And we're heading to her bedroom, and I am thrilled. Nothing could go wrong in this evening. I'm excited, and we get to the point where it's about go time. Both of us stark naked. And that's the time when my stomach was like, hey, do you remember what we did at lunch? And before I could really say any words, I tried to say, oh, no. But what I said was, oh, and then I shouted hot dog chunks all over this poor woman's naked body. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen a naked person dive away from you in horror. It's the worst thing you can ever see. Yeah, that is not how you pork a girl, my friends. That is the wrong way to do that. The saddest and most shameful thing about that story is she was delightful about it. She offered to do laundry. She changed all of her linens. She wanted to go again, and I was too mortified. I was like, you should really never talk to me again. And that was the most humiliating story that instead of running from, I choose to embrace and share with my friends who I've never met before on a Zoom. So that's it, my friends. That's all I'm going to do tonight. Night, night. Thank you to Boston for All and Jeremy and Andrew, and great job, Michael. I'm really happy to be here.
Dana, thank you so much, man.
Hey, you're here.
I made it. Jeremy made great strides in improving the security of, and I'll tell you what, the folks that are at the door, they don't take any guff.
I promise I'm doing all I can to work it out. So Turco, just let me say, I did nothing that you could, everything that I did was, oh boy, we're having trouble, because I knew you would come in and make it so much better. So you take it away and say all the things you should.
Distraction Brewing, that guy saved the day. He sent a magic link out. So Pat French can also probably crash into all of your Zoom meetings.
Good to know. So take it away. Tell us what we need to know.
Where'd you leave off?
Basically, I said, hey, we're Boston for All. We're doing this thing. And here's Dana Jay Bein.
Oh, okay. All right. So, so far we've raised $1,300 for Frontline Foods. Frontline Foods is an organization. They're across the country. They have a chapter here in Boston. And what they do is, you raise money for Frontline Foods. Frontline Foods goes out. They go to local restaurants. They purchase meals, large numbers of meals from local restaurants, and then they donate those meals to frontline healthcare workers. So the money that's raised tonight is going to help feed the people who are on the front lines of this pandemic, and it's also keeping restaurant workers employed. So we're so excited that you folks are here. We're so excited for all the storytellers tonight. We're going to have some demonstrations. We're going to have some live music. I want to thank Michael Boezi and Jeremy Fischer at Boston for All for all the great work that you do, and all the security things that you've put in place. They are working. So
Hope they didn't rough you up too much, Andrew.
So we're pumped about tonight. I think we're going to hear a lot of stories about running. We're going to hear some stories about a lot of different stuff, but I'm glad we kicked it off with a gastrointestinal story. The first time I ran the Boston Marathon, I ran it twice, by the way. If you are not someone who runs marathons, at some point in that race, you have to decide, is it more important that I finish this race or not poop my pants? And if you can do both, hero. So on that note, I want to bring up our next storyteller. Stand by. Our next storyteller is Owen Royce Nagel.
Hold on a minute, my friend. Owen is actually the chef at Casa Verde. I do not see Owen here yet. Folks, welcome to a very amateur situation that we're hoping to make as good as possible. So we're going to skip Owen right now, and we're going to go to Dan Janis. And I'm going to find Owen, and when he comes, we are definitely going to get him to give us a knife skills presentation.
Fantastic. Why don't we, Jeremy, can you just give me a heads up when he's in, and then we'll go.
I absolutely will do that.
All right, Dan Janis. Dan, I met Dan at, Jeremy runs a beer night. It is a beer enthusiast night where you come and everybody brings the same type of beer. Everything's blind tasting. And I think the night I met Dan, everybody was doing porters, and he brought a peach-flavored light beer. He did not win that night, but he's a winner nonetheless. He does a lot of great things for the community. He's a running fanatic. He's an organizer of the annual Sedgwick Slog in JP. It's a neighborhood race. He's a 4-star marathon maniac and an aspiring 50-state marathoner. He writes about his running and travel adventures and about capitalism, toenail fungus, free beer, and other assorted topics on the danjanifesto.com, which can be found at www.danjanis.com. Dan, take it away, man.
Andy, thank you. That was the most astonishing professional introduction I think I've ever had in my life. That was just phenomenal. So thanks, guys. Jeremy, Andy, Michael for putting this on, and all the Boston for All folks. This is great. It's really nice to have some remote personal communication with folks. So thanks for doing this. So in the spirit of the long run theme, I'm going to tell a story about the literal long run, about running marathons and becoming part of this very eclectic, quirky group of people in the Marathon Maniacs, and how associating with these folks ended up dragging me out to a very sketchy motel on the outskirts of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So in 2006, I ran my first marathon in Burlington, Vermont. And after the initial pain subsided a couple hours later, I just felt like I had drank the Kool-Aid, and that's what I wanted to do. And I was ready to sign up for another marathon by the end of the day. And so I started doing marathons, and it's just what I love to do. And I did a few more of them in a few different states. And I love to travel and see different places. And after doing a few marathons in a few states, I had the blatantly obvious idea of, wouldn't it be something if I could try to do a marathon in every state? And so for the past 13 years, that's what I've been trying to do. And it was panning out that 2020 was probably going to be my year to finish the states. I've got 4 states left to go. And I was enrolled in marathons in the 4 remaining states, and then enrolled COVID and, like so many other plans, threw a little wrench in that. So, here's to 2021, and life takes strange detours. So after running marathons for a while, I heard about this organization. It's an online running group called the Marathon Maniacs. And the Maniacs are all about just running a lot of marathons. They're not about running fast or race times or all that. It's just a lot of marathons. And the threshold thing you have to do to become a Marathon Maniac is to run 3 marathons in 3 months. So I did that, and then you get in the club, they check your results, and you become a 1-star Marathon Maniac. Now you can become up to a 10-star Marathon Maniac. And to become a 10-star Maniac, you have to run, there's a few ways you can do it. You can run 52 marathons in 1 year. You can run 30 marathons in 30 states in 1 year, or 20 marathons in 20 countries in 1 year to get your 10 stars. And so once you have 1 star of anything, of course, what do you want? You want more stars. And there's a quick way in the Marathon Maniacs, you can jump to 4 stars. And you can get to that by running 2 marathons in 2 days. So a few years later, I did that. I got my 4 stars. And while I was out there running my second marathon in 2 days, my wife, Leslie, drafted up a legal contract. I think Michael might have a picture of it, on official Comfort Inn, Newport, Rhode Island stationery. And it's a contract that said, I, Dan Janis, am happy with 4 stars and will not do more crazy things to get more stars. So I signed that, potentially under duress, but for now I'm happy with 4 stars. And I think, if I die as a 4-star Marathon Maniac, that'll probably be okay. So fast forward to 2018, I was signed up for the Tulsa, Oklahoma Marathon. And I was getting ready to go a few days before the race, and I got a notice from the airline that my flight had been changed. And now, instead of getting into Tulsa in the early afternoon, I wasn't going to get in until about 10 o'clock at night. And what that meant was that I was going to miss the expo the day before the race. Now, Marathon Expo is it's a big showcase of hucksters and salespeople, and you go and you sign in and you get your bib, and you'll taste all the latest running food stuffs and socks and lotions and all kinds of stuff. And usually, if you can't make it to the expo, you can just show up to the race early the next morning, sign in, get your bib. But the Tulsa Marathon had a strict policy that you had to show up at the expo. So I wasn't going to be able to make it. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I didn't know anybody in Tulsa. And I thought, this might be the moment to enlist the Marathon Maniacs. I had fallen out of favor a little bit with the Maniacs because I had experience over and over with Maniacs that I met that I thought we would trace stories and talk about races. And I just had this experience over and over that when we connected, the conversation became just sort of a rote recitation of numbers and races. So I had, not participated a lot, but I thought this is the time. So I got in touch with the Marathon Maniac, one admin person. It's a very shoestring organization. And it just so happened that once a year, the Maniacs choose one race where they have a big reunion, and Tulsa was going to be the race that year. And there were going to be over 150 Marathon Maniacs going to the race. So I asked the administrator if there was some way she could pass along the message that I was looking for somebody who could go to the expo for me and pick up my bib. And she did that. She sent an email blast out to all 150 Maniacs who were going to be doing the race. And immediately I just got a deluge of responses. I think altogether I got over 40 responses from people saying that they could help me out. And so because I had so many choices, I found just the right person, the guy whose name was Dave, who turned out to be staying at the same hotel I was staying at. And he was going to pick my bib up, drop it off at the hotel, and would be there waiting for me at the front desk when I got to the hotel. It was just going to be perfect. So that was all worked out. So I went to the airport the day of my flight, and I was about to get on the flight. And right as I was boarding, I got a text from Ed. And I'd never had any correspondence with Ed before. And the text just said, "I have your bib." And said, "Well, okay, thanks for helping out. Since I already had it worked out with somebody else," I said, "Is there any way that you might be able to bring it to the hotel that I'm staying at downtown?" And he sent me another one-liner back and he said, "No, your bib will be at the Motel 6 in Tulsa." I said, "All right, I'm getting in at 10 o'clock." And so I got on my flight and I got to Tulsa. And then I got off the plane and there was another text from Ed. And it said, "When you're looking up the hotel for your GPS, enter this address because it's actually no longer a Motel 6. All right, so I entered it in, and I drove out from the airport, and I was getting further and further outside of Tulsa, and it's kind of a dilapidated industrial area. And sure enough, I get to the motel, and you could see the Motel 6 sign was still there, but it was just spray painted over with black spray paint, and really run down looking place. And there's a picture of it during the daylight. So I went into the motel, and in the entrance, I texted Ed and said, "I'm here." And I was waiting there, and all I could see is there was the front desk, and there was a door leading off to the side that turned out to be a club, and a sign on the door that said "No gang colors." And I was waiting for Ed to come out, and sure enough, he came, and he had my packet, and he was a little bit of a socially awkward guy, but we had a quick transaction, and he gave me the packet. And that's the end of the story. The next day, I ran the race, and it was just fine. I finished in 3 hours, 40 minutes, and 45 seconds. I had a burger at Fat Guy's Burger Bar, and I came home with another race under my belt. And so I think the moral of that story is that, sometimes there's not a punchline. Sometimes life is just meandering. And that's what I love about these travels, trying to knock off all the states, is that you see some interesting places, you go to some interesting nooks and crannies. And 2020 was going to be the big year for me, but it's not going to, and that's okay. It'll be another time. And in the meantime, I got to see an interesting motel outside of Tulsa. And just as a quick postscript, if you are wondering what exactly it is a Motel 6 has to do to lose its credential as a Motel 6, you can go online and you can just read the TripAdvisor reviews that are still there for the former Motel 6 outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the first 4 reviews are these. The first one is entitled, "Do not waste your time," 5 exclamation points. "I stayed here primarily to have a shower. The first room had a man in it. The manager gave us another room. We went up there and we watched as roaches scattered on the walls and the refrigerator." The second review is "horrible," another exclamation point. "The property manager was awful. The rooms you enter from the outside and it looks like the police have kicked a majority of the doors in." The third top review on TripAdvisor says, "Run from here. Exclamation point. Worst room on the planet. Supposed to have been a non-smoking room, but it smelled like stale ashtray. There was no water, not even in the toilet. And the fourth review on TripAdvisor for the former Motel 6 outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, the heading is, might as well have gone camping, would have been cleaner. Worst place I have ever stayed. The first room they put us in looked like there was blood on the carpet and the sink still had water in it that wouldn't drain. It was a sight out of a horror movie. We were just waiting for a man with a chainsaw or a hole in the wall in the shower area. So thanks, folks, for listening to my story about the Marathon Maniacs, and I'll see you all in Tulsa.
Dan, can I just ask, how was your shower?
My shower was delightful. I didn't stay there, so after the race, there's nothing better in the world than a scalding hot shower and a fruity pale ale.
Of course, it had to be fruity, of course, as we know. One more question. How many medals are we looking at behind you?
That's a combination of marathons and half marathons. I think I've done 54 marathons and probably 20 or so half marathons. And each one, that's a towel rack behind me with those. And each one is the question is, if I put another medal on here, is this going to be the one that's going to rip that thing off the wall? So far, so good.
All right. And Dan, by the way, I'm going to stay here tonight, if you can see my screen.
Perfect.
Also. So thank you for the recommendation.
Write a review on TripAdvisor.
I think this is our first multimedia presentation as part of a story.
Yeah, we're really moving up in the world.
We keep saying this is the first of different. It sounds like we've been doing it for years, which
we have, clearly.
So usually, Dan didn't bring this up. Usually the sketchiest part about running a marathon is when you go to the expo, there's usually a handsy guy that's like, asks you if you want to try this electrical massage thing. And basically they put probes on your back and it just gives you electrical shocks. And then you have to have an awkward conversation about why you don't want to buy it. But that hotel looked worse. So.
Show the medal.
What'd you say? I didn't hear that. All right. Well, we have a little demonstration coming up.
Yep.
All right. Stand by. Stand by. So
Hey
next,
guys,
Owen, we're looking at you.
awesome. Hi, I'm Owen. I am the chef at Casa Verde in Jamaica Plain. I want to say thank you to all you guys watching, participating, donating. This is really cool, and just happy to be a part of it. So I only have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to show you everything I can in 10 minutes. So the first thing I wanted to show you is the knife I'm using, which is, it's made by R. Murphy, and it's a local knife maker. I think they're out of Central Mass. I'd have to look that up. But they've been around for about 100 years. And for those of you that live in the JP area, they sell these at Kitchen Witch. My wife got me one of these for my birthday a few years ago. And I love it. It's a carbon steel knife, which means that for those of you that don't know, carbon steel, unlike stainless, if you leave water on it, it's going to rust. So it's a little bit more high maintenance, but it keeps a really great edge. And Kitchen Witch also sharpens knives, which is a pretty cool service because as a chef, like, you know, I don't really judge people when I go to people's houses and eat their food. I think it's awesome just to have a home cooked meal. But when I'm asked to cook at other people's houses, my number one gripe is nobody ever has sharp knives. And it is the key to great cooking. I mean, it's really difficult because it's the start of everything, right? Is cutting. So it's a great service that they do. And I think it's like $1 or $2 a knife. And you would only need to do it, I don't know, once or twice a year. And then once you do have it sharpened, let me just grab, a steel, which a little bit of a misnomer is that steels sharpen knives. They do make knives sharper, but they don't really sharpen knives. What they do is they take all the kind of the nicks and the burrs out of the blade. So even a super dull knife, if you haven't run it on a steel in a while, it could bring it back because all it does is that any of those like little uneven spots on the blade It just makes it all true. So that's hopefully helpful. I was going to show you guys two things that I cut very often. Onions being number one. I wish somebody could tell me how many pounds of onions I've cut in my life, because it would be a staggering number. But so I'm just going to show you, hopefully you guys can see. Oh, I might need help. Yeah. Oh boy. Sorry, guys.
Your pain, man. I was there.
We're gonna get there.
Owen, can I just say, by the way, your shirt is fantastic.
Oh, thanks. I love this shirt.
Yes, tomato vinegar.
Yeah, it's North Carolina. They know a few things about barbecue. So I'm just trying to get this to look at the cutting board while I cut. This is my wife, Lizzie, by the way.
Hi.
Hi, Lizzie. Welcome.
All right.
All right. So basically, so this is how I cut an onion. I find it's the fastest, most efficient way, because mostly what we're doing, we're like making sauces, or, you know, you don't need perfectly square knife cuts. So I just come in and take out the back, or the butt. That's like the one part that you don't want to eat. Everything else you want. So I just kind of cut around it in strips. I'd say probably about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. And these are super tiny Wegmans onions, but it's still the same rules apply to the large ones. And then just go back across it. And that's it. And you got yourself, so some of them are going to stick together, but like I say, if you're cooking, it doesn't really matter, because all of this is going to come apart as you're cooking it. And it's mostly you just want even cuts so that it cooks evenly. The other thing I wanted to show you was herbs, which is another thing that I cut a lot in the restaurant. This is parsley. And the reason I wanted to show this is because what a lot of people do, even a lot of restaurants do, is they'll just run the knife over it like this, lots and lots and lots and lots of times, right? And that is chopped parsley. That's the garnish that you see in a lot of different places. But what that does, unfortunately, is it leaves a green stain on your cutting board. And that's pretty much all of the flavor of the parsley. It's just left there in that pool on your cutting board. So it's a little bit like anything, it takes practice. But basically, you just want to kind of scrunch up your herbs in a loose bunch. You don't want to really squeeze them too hard. And then just really softly cut down on them. And when you hear like crunching sounds, then you know you're not doing it quite right. It should be kind of like a gliding sound. And then you can go over it a couple times just to kind of get it smaller. But what you don't want to do is just kind of hammer it. And that's it. And then you got like nice fluffy herbs. The other thing I want to say about that is herbs, a lot of times people cut them and then they don't need to. A lot of the softer herbs like basil, mint, parsley, you could just tear them and it has the same effect, basically. So that's what I do with my knife most days when I get to cook.
Thank you, Owen.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure. Oh,
Yeah.
Turco,
This is our puppy, by the way. We got him a couple of weeks ago. His name's Leroy.
Hi, Leroy. I just want to make sure everybody knows Owen and Turco. I think we stepped on you really introducing Owen. Do you want to read off Owen's bio, because I think it's worth knowing who he is.
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead, my friend.
In Dorchester, he has
Yep.
been in the local restaurant industry for years. He has helped open local establishments such as Eastern Standard, Craigie on Main, and Row 34. Owen spent 4 years as the chef at Tres Cantos and has been the chef at Casa Verde for 2 years. Owen's ultimate goal is to open a French-German wine bar with his wife and dog.
And dog, yes.
The dog wasn't mentioned, but that dog could definitely make some cocktails. Well, thank you so much, Owen. We really appreciate. I'll tell you what, onions is when I love to cook, and trying to figure out a more efficient way to cook onion to slice and chop onions is always something I want to learn. So my wife reaps the benefits of that. So thank you very much. I just want to say that we are currently at $1,400 for fundraising tonight. So I want to thank everybody for their generosity tonight. Our goal tonight was $1,500. So if people are trying to think about other ways to donate and to raise money for this, one of the things we've done in the past is that we did it.
Woohoo!
The onions. Thank you so much, everyone. We're at $1,516. Thank you, everyone, for your generosity. One of the things we've done in the past few weeks is the past times that we've done this is that if you have a drink or you have dinner and you want to pay for your drink or pay for dinner or tip on top of that, all of this is going to support restaurants and frontline workers. So if you want to pay for your beer and pay that towards the GoFundMe, we'll also put up a Venmo up there that's a little easier to get to a little more quickly. So I want to thank you all for your generosity.
Simple about the Venmo. I'll put it up, but just so everybody knows, it's just Boston for all.
We'll keep it simple.
We'll put it up there for everybody, but it's that easy. You keep going.
Sarah Morin wanted to offer dog sitting services to your dog. So my dog's in the other room I was hoping my dog would come in and want to hang out, and not interested.
That dog is so sweet. Look at him.
All right.
Let's keep the night rolling, folks. So next up, we have one of our elected officials. I want to thank Matt O'Malley so much for being here tonight. We're really excited to have someone from the city of Boston telling a story. He's a 9-time marathon runner. He's represented Boston's District 6 since winning a special election back in 2010. Matt is the chair of the city's Environment and Sustainability Committee and vice chair of the City Neighborhood Services and Veterans Affairs Committee. He's the reason we have free sunscreen dispensers around the city. Thank you so much. I have very sensitive skin. Matt O'Malley, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Jeremy, Fischer, and everyone involved during these incredibly difficult times. It is so wonderful to see all of your smiling faces coming together for such an important cause. My long run began in October of the year 2000. I was standing at the finish line of the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C., no doubt wearing an Al Gore for President button while holding a sign encouraging my dad, who was about to finish the race and is on this call. That year, he had turned 50, stopped drinking, and started running marathons. To say I was proud would be an understatement. To say I was inspired would be a certainty. I vowed then and there that I would run the 2001 race. I took the metro home to my apartment in Foggy Bottom, jumped on my roommate's computer, and began planning. I've always been a planner, at least initially. I asked Jeeves what a marathon training program looked like. I posted to my Blogspot page seeking recommendations for the best sneakers. I scoured online bulletin boards searching out running groups. After laying out my shorts and a running jacket, I went to bed that night and set my alarm clock, if you remember those, for 6 a.m. Well, the alarm went off at 6, and I promptly unplugged it and went back to bed until 11. I then got up and did whatever college kids did in the year 2000, likely played Snood or downloaded episodes of The Sopranos from Livewire. My Catholic guilt got the better of me, and I began thinking that I should go for a run, but instead I made a deal with myself that I would go twice the distance the next day. Well, tomorrow came and I didn't run. In fact, I kind of forgot about my grand marathon plan for the next 8 months. I spent the summer of 2001 in DC taking classes, and one night I went out for a run along the National Mall. I stumbled upon a film crew, which was not that uncommon of a sight near the Capitol, and they were surrounding this incredibly striking and incredibly tall woman. It was Allison Janney, and she was taping an episode of The West Wing. I gave her a nod, and she smiled back. Needless to say, I was starstruck. I went running the next night, and the night after that, and the night after that, to see if I could catch another glimpse of fame. No such luck, but it was during that third consequential run that I did have an epiphany. I was supposed to be training for a marathon. I then tried every avenue available to get a number, but I always came up short. It wasn't meant to be, I sighed, more relieved than anything else. Fast forward to that August. A friend of a friend who recalls my earlier boasting of wanting to run a marathon tells me that his friend has a Marine Corps bib that she's not going to use. She apparently had some training issues and would rather see her bib not go to waste. I thought it was a rather flimsy excuse, but luckily for me, it worked out. Plus, I had no training issues whatsoever since I had no training whatsoever, so I eagerly accepted. Luckily for me, she had a gender-neutral first name, Jamie. I phoned my dad to tell him the good news, and he mailed me a check for $100. Remember, this is long before Venmo. That $100 was ostensibly to buy a pair of shoes. So, of course, I purchased a pair of shoes, sneakers, running sneakers for $40 and used the rest on a bar tab at Lindy's Red Lion. I did, that night, vow to get serious about training. Of course, I never did get serious, and I probably did a handful of runs along the National Mall during August and early September of that year. And I remember it culminated one September run. It's a 5-mile loop on a Tuesday that was absolutely perfect weather, sunny and breezy. It was that day that I thought maybe, just maybe, I might be able to pull this off. After my run, I went back to my apartment and took a shower before heading out to my 9 a.m. class. I turned the television on in the background as I was getting ready, and I saw Katie Couric and what appeared to be smoke coming out of the World Trade Center. Needless to say, I didn't make that 9 a.m. class. Shortly after, they began talking about the Pentagon, and I could look out my kitchen window, and off in the distance across the Potomac, I could actually see plumes of smoke just beyond the river. Shortly after that, as if on cue, there was a knock at my door. It was an older neighbor from my building saying there were bombs going off on the National Mall, and the State Department, which was our other neighbor, was being evacuated. She said we needed to leave the building. Of course, there weren't bombs going off along the mall, and our building didn't need to be evacuated, but no one knew anything at that time. I left the building and I walked around downtown Washington, D.C. I had no idea where to go. Afterwards, in the weeks after, I didn't really feel much like running again, which I regret now because I wish I could tell the 21-year-old me that running is a great way to deal with stress and anxiety during very difficult days. And how great would it have been to have been able to go running without wearing a cloth mask. A couple of weeks later, it's now 1 week before the race. It's tapering time. Now, this was the one aspect of training that I embraced wholeheartedly. I dutifully ate pasta every night and didn't run much. That is until the day before the race. I went to pick up the bib with Jamie, and she suggested that we go for a run together afterwards. I heartily agreed, and we went out for 10 miles. My longest run, by far, the day before the marathon. That night, being a college kid, I, of course, went out with friends for a couple of beers and was home around 10. The next morning, race day, I actually did get up at 6 a.m. this time and made my way to the National Cemetery to begin the race. Two things were certain that morning. One, I was perhaps the most unprepared marathoner in history, and two, I was incredibly nervous. In fact, to truly show how nervous I was, I smoked 2 cigarettes before the race. Regrettably, I was a smoker in those days, and what an asshole I must have looked like. Smoking a Parliament Light, wearing a cotton t-shirt because I didn't think to wear something that was nylon or sweat wicking or even polyester. No nip guards because I didn't think I needed them. I was basically wearing a bathing suit for shorts. And this is the most embarrassing part. I wrote my name on the back of my shirt. You see, my father suggested that I write my name on my shirt so that spectators would call it out for encouragement. I assumed he meant the back of my shirt like a professional sports jersey. Needless to say, no one called out my name. The race started, and unbelievably, I felt fine. I would soon learn the efficacy of training. The first 10 miles were actually pretty fun, and I felt that I could do it. And then once I reached mile 11, I felt like I was hit by a Mack truck. Fortunately, my ego is and was a mighty strong motivator. I knew that I had friends cheering me on at the Capitol, which is around mile 18, so I had to at least make it that far. I made it, and being good friends, they told me they'd hop on the metro and meet me at the finish line. I'm not sure if they knew I was ready to crash, but I credit with them with making me stick with it. At around mile 21, I knew I'd finish the race. Much like Boston's Heartbreak Hill, mile 21 is an iconic part of the Marine Corps Marathon. It's here where you have to beat the bridge. This means that you're crossing over from the district into Arlington, Virginia. And upon crossing that bridge, you're close to the Pentagon. Now remember, this is about 6 weeks after 9/11. It was one of the most somber experiences I've ever lived. Most people on this Zoom call have either competed in or cheered along runners in road races, and every one of them, from the Olympics to the Doyle's Road Race, is loud and boisterous. This is particularly true during marathons. Cowbells, hoots, hollers, shouts of encouragement, sometimes loud music. It's an absolute zoo, a party atmosphere. When we runners approached the Pentagon that afternoon, it couldn't have been more different. It was perfectly silent. The only sound that anyone could hear was the patter of sneakers hitting the pavement. You could see that spectators were crying, but they weren't making any noise. That is until one person started singing God Bless America. And then others joined in. Through tears, I sung along. All of a sudden, I forgot about my own pain and was consumed by the pain that my country was feeling. I cried when I saw a young man in uniform running alongside me while carrying an American flag. Sheer emotion carried me for the final 5 miles to the finish line. I crossed it and collapsed. My amazing friends made me feel as though I'd won the whole race, even though my time was close to 4 hours, 55 minutes. I didn't care. I was a marathoner. Fast forward to 2 years later. This time I had graduated and was back in Boston, my hometown. I vowed to run the greatest marathon in the greatest city in the world. And unlike my first foray, I undertook this endeavor with the seriousness that it deserved. I got a bib as a member of the Children's Hospital team. I began training in October, 7 months before the race day. I ran 3 nights a week with the competitive Parkway Running Club. I did 3 20-plus mile training runs. I'd quit smoking, I ate well, and I knew enough to wear nip guards. Then race day came and I was pumped. Obviously nervous, but ready. The gun went off. I left Hopkinton and eventually made that right on Hereford, left on Boylston Street. My time? 4 hours, 56 minutes, 1 minute longer than the Marine Corps Marathon of 2001. After that, I'd go on to run Boston 6 more times, including in 2014, the year after the bombings. I cried finishing that race too. I was both heartbroken by what my city had gone through and inspired by the number of survivors who were back as part of our day. This year, I'd also been training, perhaps not as diligently as 2003, but certainly more so than 2001 for the race. It actually has been the most pleasant training season over the last 20 years, and let's face it, Monday's weather was close to perfect running conditions. I was particularly looking forward to seeing my wife with her 20-week baby bump at Cleveland Circle this year. Alas, it wasn't meant to be. Now, I don't pretend to be profound or particularly insightful, but I do think there's a corollary between the challenges of a marathon and the challenges of what we're up against right now. You see, running isn't a solitary sport. Even though that may seem counterintuitive, it certainly is the case. In running, you need teammates, you need spectators, you need mental rivalries that you make with other runners on the course. You need a spouse or a partner or a loved one to make sure you get out of bed to go on those tough training runs in the cold winter morning. You need other people to make sure that you get to that finish line, and that's exactly what we're going to do to get through COVID-19. It's not going to be easy, and Lord knows we've already seen devastation that is beyond words, but damn it, we're the most resilient and tough people alive. We're Bostonians. We can do this, and we will do this. And to all of those listening and watching, there's still time to train for the 2020 Boston Marathon, which will be held for the first time ever in the fall, this fall, September 14th. In fact, my spot may become available. While I still hope to run it, I may not be able to, but rest assured that my excuse is a lot better than Jamie's. The due date of my first child is going to be September 15th. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Can we do something here? Everyone, just so you know, you are unmuted. And Matt would have been running the marathon, which means that he would have heard a lot of cheering. On the count of 3, we're all going to cheer like Matt ran the marathon.
Hey, Matt!
Come on, Matt! I'm muting you all just so you know it.
Thank you for the baby.
Turco, you're the only one who can talk right now.
Battery. I mean, Matt.
Thank you so much, Matt. That was a great story. And I've only run 2 marathons in my life, but I think everybody thinks this marathon is this unattainable thing, but it's really one of those things that if you train, anyone can do it. If you can walk, you can run a marathon. And I ran my first marathon, I think in 2000. No. I think in 2017. It was the year that it was really hot, and then the next year the weather was terrible. And I also did not take it very seriously. Like I had a friend that really tried to train me, but I didn't have the attention span to just like go out and zen out for 10 miles. And so I would make these challenges for myself. So I would run to JP and then meet up with Jeremy. Jeremy would be out with his family, and I'd get like hot dogs and French fries and have a Guinness and then run home. And
which, by the way, actually happened. In case anybody's wondering, we really did that.
It happened. It's not. I don't think it's endorsed by any sort of running group, but the one thing that I really love about training for a marathon is you can eat whatever you want. You're literally, if I can compare your body to anything, if you've seen Back to the Future, at the end of Back to the Future, Doc Brown has come back from the future and he's just throwing garbage into the DeLorean because it has a Mr. Fusion on it and it can turn anything into energy. That's basically what your body becomes. And you can eat whatever you want. And I didn't do a lot of reading. I didn't do a lot of research. I was like, you know what, people have been running these for millennia. It's, you get a pair of shoes, you run, you stretch, it's fine. And the day before the marathon, I you're supposed to carb up, right? And so I went out with my now wife and my mom, and we went to Posto, which is an Italian restaurant in Davis Square. And I was like, oh, I got to get pasta. So I got a short rib gnocchi with a cream sauce, and it was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. And I'm also lactose intolerant. So I had that. It was great. Woke up the next day, and that's when it really hit me, like the magic of what you're doing. And I think there's not many athletic events you can do.
That's awesome.
They drive you somewhere and they say, okay, see you at home. So basically you get on the bus to run the Boston Marathon. They drive you 26 miles in the opposite direction on the highway, and then you run back. And I just remember it being so hot that I was stopping I was so afraid I was going to dehydrate and get cramps. So I would stop at every aid station. I would drink water. I would drink 2 cups of water and 2 cups of Gatorade. And for the first few miles, that went great. And for the next few miles, that was not as good. And I remember just like sloshing around in my stomach. And when I hit Heartbreak Hill, my legs, it's called Heartbreak Hill. It's a series of hills, and your legs are just toast. By the time you get there, your legs are cramping up, and it's just brutal going up and down. And it was a mix of like, I'm trying to walk, but I'm also trying not to crap my pants. And finally I was like, I just need to go to the bathroom. And I had nothing left in me, like emotionally and spiritually, to like carry me on. And I remember going into the bathroom, and I remember what happened to me in the bathroom was so terrible that I started laughing.
Okay, I guess we're moving on. Oh, wait, sorry.
So I left this just thinking to myself, there's no way. So a crane is going to have to come and take that thing out of commission. And the thing that carried me to the finish line when I ran my first marathon was laughing that someone else is going to open that door. And the look on their face that's what carried me. That's what carried me down Boylston Street and through my first marathon. So,
and let me just say, that is why we chose such a classy man to MC this event.
Jeremy said I had to kill some time, so how'd I do?
I didn't expect you were going to do it that way, but that's okay. We're gonna hear a great story from Michael Beautyman.
Oh, fantastic! Hold on, Michael Beautyman sent me his bio. A little. He is a former Cantabrigian. He's a current and sometimes resident of Washington, D.C., blah, blah, blah. You say stuff. You're my friend, Michael Beautyman. My story is about running and pooping. Okay, all right.
Well, there you go. That's actually perfect. Hold on. Can you do me a favor? Can you tell us about Michael Beautyman's recent encounter with a pony?
So Michael Beautyman, as some of you may know, Jeremy was, I got married back in September. Jeremy was our officiant. and Michael Beautyman had the distinct pleasure of he walked our ring bearer, Lucy Pone, which was a miniature horse, down the aisle, and that was our ring bearer. So he was in his dress whites. Lucy Pone had a kerchief and a little sailor hat on, and it was beautiful.
And it wasn't, I just think it's important to point out, hold on, you know what, we're going to cancel you for a second.
Sure.
I just think it's important to point out that Michael Beautyman wasn't just walking a miniature horse down the aisle. Here is a tall, he is aptly named. Let me just say, this guy he's a little bit like Superman. And he seems as though he's the person who can do anything. And here's this guy who looks like he stepped out of a GQ magazine, except it's also like he's in An Officer and a Gentleman, which, by the way, my mother, who's on this, loves An Officer and a Gentleman. So Beautyman, you should make sure to say hello to my mother. Walking down with a miniature pony. At the same time, I was trying to actually do something very serious, which is give a sermon. And suddenly nobody was paying attention to me. It was the gorgeous man and the pony. So we want to give you the gorgeous man who was with the pony. Beautyman, I hope you're on here, because right now I don't see you with video. I'm going to assume you're here. Turco, you here?
I'm here.
Okay. So Beautyman is not showing having video, but he is showing his gorgeous picture. So we're going to assume that he's ready.
I can draw a rendition of him very quickly.
You probably could. Oh, here he is. You ready? We are going to spotlight Michael Beautyman for his story.
All right. That was a really over-the-top, generous introduction, and mostly lies. So yeah, thank you, Jeremy and Andrew, one, for making my head too big to now leave the house, so we're all safe, and also for including me in this wonderful event. I have to say it was a little intimidating looking at the email that came out advertising all the award-winning comedic performances and musicians who are joining us tonight, and me thinking I had no place in that list. And now that we've gone through the night a little bit, I've seen some of these heard some of these stories and seen some of these performances, I definitely have no place on that list. So this evening all started with a story of a long run from shame and embarrassment. I'd like to bring you a long run of shame and embarrassment. It was 2013. I was living in San Diego, a land of outdoor activity and people who are intensely attractive until they speak. Now, this being a land of highly active people who do ridiculous things all the time, one of those is go for runs as a date. Some context here, when I run, I look and feel like I am dying. I run with a purpose. I am disheveled, I am bright red, and I'm usually sweating like a nervous fat kid presented with the uncertain future of a cake. So I'm on my first-ish date with a nice woman who had recently moved to San Diego, whom I'd met while she was visiting the city. We'll call her A. She was a runner, and it was a running town, or it's an active town, so we decided to run. Or perhaps more accurately with how sort of first dates go, the idea somehow floated into the negotiation space between us for this date, and each of us thought the other wanted to do it, and therefore we couldn't say no lest we dispel any chances of romance in a city of beautiful illiterates. So we ran the Embarcadero, which is Spanish for El Pier. This is not technically a long run. It's like maybe 4 miles, but it felt like the longest run of my life. We started along, we're having a great time. Our competitive edges were dulled by the sort of, no, cool, it's fine, I can totally hold a meaningful conversation while running vibe, so I was good. Halfway through, maybe the pressure began, the hint that something was amiss. People may now stereotypically assume this was food because I'm living in Southern California. Stereotypes suck. Be better. This was not tacos al gordo because those are the best damn tacos on the border, and I will enter your 6-foot space if you say otherwise. Now, despite playing it so cool, my growing despair was apparent. Ever just the nicest Minnesotan attempts to help me locate a bathroom. We're in luck. Restaurants abound. We're on the waterfront. No joy. You must be customers. We have no money, though I would gladly give them all of whatever I had to get into the bathroom. And you must not be disgusting to enter, and I am. So we carry on. The discomfort has grown now to sort of a small seismic activity concerning the nerds over at UCSD, but not fully understood by my company or the innocent bystanders around us. But we may be in luck. So as you run across the pier to the right in the direction we're running, there are a bunch of docks with these beautiful giant mega yachts. And then to the left, the facilities for those yachts, including the heads for all you sailors out there, a bunch of bathrooms. So we decide we'll try those. No, they're all locked. I ask for someone who works there to unlock them and am told a slightly more well-painted version of those are for rich people. So I don't know. Apparently you can go into those rooms and poop on poor people. I don't know how it works, but I couldn't get in. So now I'm full on hurt like John in Alien. Like I already know how that ends. So no thanks. I confess to A. She's cool. She tells me this is okay. It happens to every runner. We've now reached Bayfront Park. Around us, the picture for you. Dozens, maybe hundreds of people playing Frisbee, running, having picnics, playing catch, walking dogs. I scan quickly for a grove of trees, and I find it, sort of. It's thin, 3 thin trees in a triangle 20 feet from a sidewalk. So prairie dog and I make a break. I'm already late to this party. I lean against the tree, drop trow, and begin to relieve myself, thinking, thank God, I made it, sort of. I look up and straight into the eyes of a woman walking 3 dogs. All 3 dogs, too. I didn't know until that moment it was possible to look straight into the 8 eyes simultaneously, but we all saw each other. The woman, horrified. The dogs, vindicated. I avert my eyes to the right, anything to break this humiliating contact. I look away, straight into the back of Fox Sports Studio, which is filming outside today. I finish. I'm in pine trees. There will be no cleanup today. I rejoin A. I walk, red, brown, head bowed down, to my apartment. She is insanely kind and keeps telling me how it happens to all runners, and I shouldn't be embarrassed, and all real runners have oops stories. I wonder silently about what those runners felt in their cases as the Fox Sports crew watched them pantsless stare into the souls of 4 mammals. I get to the elevator of my building. My roommate at the time, an old college teammate, happens to get in the elevator at the same time. Nice small space. And he comments, it's like, oh, it smells like shit in here. Yeah, totally just grabbed my pants. And he's like, like funny saying for a fart. I'm thinking like, I didn't say I never mind. Get home, begin cleaning my body, but unable to remove this spot from my mind. I was sure I would never hear from A again. Needless to say, we dated for 4 years. Thanks, folks.
Well done. Thank you, sir.
Magic. Thanks, Michael. And thank you for your hard work with our beautiful equine creature. We're going to return to, if people, anybody out there has marital plans and you're thinking about a miniature horse as being part of your ceremony, there is a miniature animal farm in Milton, Vermont called Miniature Animal Farm LLC. They didn't have a great marketing person, but they get right to the point. And they're reasonably priced. 500?
I think we lowballed them at 300.
Oh, $300. They dropped the horse off. It was great. The horse was really sweaty when it got there, but it was, it did photos. It bit one person. Okay. Rolling right around.
Hold on. Can I just give an update?
Yeah.
We are up to $1,591 raised, all of which goes directly to Frontline Foods. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. As we said earlier, all this money is going to not only support local restaurants who are really struggling right now. So, I know people are trying to think of ways to help. And sometimes the way to help is just ordering takeout from a food that, they can't open their dining room. But we're trying to help these organizations. We're trying to help Frontline Foods that's, purchasing these foods and also putting smiles on faces of people who are really exposing themselves to danger. So thank you for all the help that you provided tonight. Thank you for all the money that you provided tonight to help this organization. And Frontline Foods is around the country. So they're in Boston. Jeremy and I were trying to figure out what organization can we support that is going to, help the most amount of people during this. And, one of the places that Frontline Foods also helps is New Orleans. And this week would have been a huge week for New Orleans. New Orleans is a pretty impoverished city to begin with, but this is the week of Jazz Fest, and Jazz Fest is obviously canceled this year, and it's a huge New Orleans is a huge COVID hotspot. So the money that we're donating tonight is going to help different places around the country, help restaurants, and help frontline workers, and so thank you for all the generosity. All right, rolling right along, folks. Next up, we have Devin Ferreira. Devin is in a class by himself as a rapper. He also plays the saxophone. By age 18, Devin had recorded multiple albums and toured through much of his native Maine. In 2009, he began working with young people in Boston, teaching hip-hop music, production, and coordinating performances. Devin has taught music to 6,000 plus youth in Greater Boston and has received the Berkeley Urban Service Award in 2014. Since 2016, Devin has released 3 albums: Urban Classic, Mustard Seed, and his most recent, Seeds of Greatness. Devin has earned commercial songwriting success with Emmy-nominated New England Patriots song Full Throttle. He's performed on WBZ TV News and won the New England Emmy Award for creating and recording Unstoppable, which is an ode to the Boston Marathon following the bombing in 2013. Currently, Devin is working on his newest album, Rooted in Faith, while conducting artist residencies for Boston Lyric Opera, Celebrity Series of Boston, and Landmarks of Symphony. Devin, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we're really excited to hear your music.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Can everybody hear me okay? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. And Devin, Devin, before you go, just so you know, everyone, I'm going to put on the chat right now where you can find Devin's music. So,
all right.
Go ahead.
All right. So I've written a few new songs while we've been in quarantine. So I'm going to do a couple of those first, and then I'll do some stuff for my new album. This song right here is called Trying Too Hard. Here we go. Another day, another drama, and I'm the star of role. Stay focused on the mission, sometimes I lose control. Free your inhibitions, I'm about to hit the road. Excited for the journey, cause this vision took a hold of me. Now there's no letting up, knock me down, I'm getting up. Pull up to the party, cause you know I had to say what's up. People in my corner, feeling like a heavyweight. Coach me into victory, the record had to set it straight. The best days are before us, more people support us. Impacting the world flow through beats, verses, and the chorus. I'm still at it. After all this time passed, got the credential to graduate. The top of my class is high class. The levels we aspire to, there's no greater feeling than I get when I inspire you. I see a higher you, one that's more defined. You're gonna make, and I wanna let you know it's your time to think of a million reasons to be down and depressed, but find one strong enough to feel loved and feel blessed. I'm learning to let go, learning to let God, cause maybe all this time I just been trying too hard. Can think of a million reasons to be down and depressed, but find one strong enough to feel loved and feel blessed. I'm learning to let go, learning to let God, cause maybe all this time I just been trying too hard. Yo, let the words flow, use me as a vessel, let the lyrics spill on the page through my pencil. I don't need a stencil, already got the blueprint, read it in newsprint on the front page. DF music is still blessing the stage. I'm setting my ways, I'm focused on the higher one. This feeling never left me, even when I tried to run. That's how I know I'm ordained, cause I'm the chosen one. I felt my heart warming up after it was frozen sun. I always count my blessings in the bits of a battle. Yo, that's why I tell them bad vibe, it's a time they had to go. Giving all the love I can, count on it, cause that's the show. Leave a legacy, it's about how you make them feel. Encourage everyone to live their dreams and make it real, and show love, it's at the heart of the matter. Lend a hand to a friend when they down to get back up. Can think of a million reasons to be down and depressed, but find one strong enough to feel loved and feel blessed. I'm learning to let go, learning to let God, cause maybe all this time I just been trying too hard. Yeah, a million reasons to be down and depressed, but find one strong enough to feel loved and feel blessed. I'm learning to let go, learning to let God, cause maybe all this time I just been trying too hard. Yeah. It's funny how we work ourselves into a fit to be the best we can be, but in all actuality, we just need to love and embrace ourselves and give ourselves permission to let our creativity flow. Stop worrying about rejection. Stop worrying about negative feedback. Just start creating freely and openly. The world is being starved of authenticity. We all crave realness, truth, positivity, and love. Here we go. Can think of a million reasons to be down and depressed, but find one strong enough to feel loved and feel blessed. I'm learning to let go, learning to let God, cause maybe all this time I just been trying too hard. Can think of a million reasons to be trying too hard. Yeah, trying too hard. Thank you. That sound okay? You can hear that all right?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. All right, so that's something I wrote in the last few days over an instrumental that my friend Buddha Tai sent me. So we're going to be releasing a project soon with those songs on it. All right, this song is called No Testimony. This is about being optimistic and learning to see things in a positive light. Forget the notion this needs to be perfect. Put your mind to it, get in it and work it. Mind fully loaded, that's why I've been stressing lately. Catching the tough break, believer for a blessing, baby. Yeah, cause this is where I hold my pain. It's where I share the thoughts in my brain. It's like a battleground, soldiers been passing away. I'm free, but something in me is having me stay. I gotta deal with what's going on around me. I met God, so I can't stay the way he found me. I'm still thankful for my situation. Yo, I use my hard times as this inspiration. Yeah, I call it the fuel to my fire. I was born to speak the true truth and inspire. So I'm feeling right at home in it. If you got a gift, then you better start honing it. As the world turns and as time passes, learn to see life through rose-colored glasses. Rose-colored glasses, learn to see life through rose-colored glasses. Believing for a blessing, the best is yet to come. Don't let the past define you, still shining like the sun in the middle of a miracle. You're the one and only. Without a test, there shall be no testimony. Free falling, feeling out of whack. Still your mind, the peacefulness brings you back to a place of gratitude, a place of optimism. So magnify your light like a holy prism. It's all you got left, better give it you all. Don't need to think about the consequences if you fall. Stay positive and give the world your best. Don't worry about the details, God will handle the rest. I'm still here, I'm waiting on my destiny. I never waste a day, each one is a blessing to me. I love what I have, I love what I can do. That's why I'm focused on giving my best to you. Maybe I'm wrong, or maybe it's true. Don't know who needs to hear this, maybe it's you. You're gonna have challenges and hard days. That's why it's important to wear your rose-colored shades as the world turns and as time passes. Learn to see life through rose-colored glasses. Rose-colored glasses. Learn to see life through rose-colored glasses. Believe in for a blessing. The best is yet to come. Don't let the past define you. Still shining like the sun in the middle of a miracle. You're the one and only. Without a test, there shall be no testimony. No testimony. No testimony. Thank you.
Woohoo!
That was yeah, that was no testimony there. So the last song, so I've got the last song I'm gonna do is a song called Seeds of Greatness, and it is off of my newest EP. And if you in the chat is a link to that, so you can stream it for free if you want to support. It's $4 with an option to give more if you'd like. Would love for you guys to check out that download. Yeah, so here we go. This song is called Seeds of Greatness off my new EP entitled Seeds of Greatness. Here we go. Writing verses in the mountains just to get away. Start a fire in the dark that gon' gather way. I'm searching for the words to say. I got some pain from the past, it still hurts to this day. I found enough courage to take a leap of faith. Man, it was small, but after all, that's all that it takes. People gon' sell a dream, but don't fall for the fakes. Don't wanna live a lifestyle based all on the praise. All on the stage, leave it all on the page. If I'm just being honest, I had a long fall from grace. I hit the ground, hurt my back, but I get up. The challenges of life can be hard, but I never let up. No matter how many tuning in, I feel blessed to be able to connect with you through our discrepancies. Finding our understanding, I'm calling common ground. Let me take a minute to show you what I'm all about. 10 years working with the youth, 1,000 shows, speaking your truth. Look around, seeing no fruit, sowing seeds in the ground, about to take root. 10 years, 10 years, 1,000 shows, 1,000 shows, on the grind, that's how it goes. One seed at a time, that's how the garden grows. I had a few friends ask me why I've been laying low. Well, I burned out last time, so now I'm taking it slow. Full-time music now, yeah, I'm making some dough. Enough to pay the bills from what I make on the go. Still getting used to telling people I'm a pro rapper when I haven't reached half the goals I'm chasing after. Cause I don't rock a chain, don't got like 50 cars, but I'd be lying if I said I don't get paid to spit these bars. When people call for advice, but I don't wanna talk. My phone's on airplane mode, yo, I'm going for a walk. For some reason, I had advice for you, insight for you, like it was nice to do. But then you used my words to fight for you. It went against the code, that wasn't right to do. But I should thank you, now I'm on my own direction. Without you showing me, I never would've known this lesson. Here we go. 10 years working with the youth, 1,000 shows, speaking your truth. Look around, seeing no fruit, sowing seeds in the ground, about to take root. 10 years, 10 years, 1,000 shows, 1,000 shows, on the grind. That's how it Here we go. One seed at a time. That's how the garden grows. But deep down, I believe I'm on the better days. Chasing someone else's dream, and I was led astray. Carving out my life from a block of stone, then paint the Sistine Chapel off the top of the dome. My whole goal now is just to keep on moving. Focus my mind and soul and believe I can do it. Not just spit these bars, but embody the culture. And with every step I take, I promise it gon' take me further. My creative energy is the thing I nurture. Don't be afraid of the passion, I promise it ain't gon' hurt you. Most of the gifts, I know you don't deserve them, but I'm committed to the Lord. I am this humble servant. So when the path gets rough, just tighten your boots and focus on your foundation. Life starts from the roots. Without a little bit of faith, I never would have made it. I want to welcome y'all to sowing seeds of greatness. 10 years working with the youth, 1,000 shows seeking your truth. Look around, seeing no fruit, sowing seeds in the ground, about to take root. 10 years, 1,000 shows, 1,000 shows on the grind. That's how it goes. One seed at a time, that's how the garden grows. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Devin.
That was about that. So I've got one last little game I'm gonna play. So everybody type a bunch of comments into the comment section, and I'm gonna use this beat and I'm gonna freestyle whatever you guys can type into the comments.
All right, everybody, you get 1 minute.
Type a random word, just like a random word very quickly. Like broccoli, no stopping me. A caterpillar with the rhyme thriller. Over the rainbows, dropping these hot flows. It's the weather, y'all, whatever the weather. I'ma squash it. Yo, I'ma make it back to Boston. I'm Boylston, in the finish line, feeling fine, suspenders. I'm never ending, never pretending. Yo, it's the Sedgwick slog. I'm in the fog, eating asparagus, a cattle. I'm gonna drop it in a rhyme battle. Like LeBron, I carry on strong, like a frog on a log. I social distance, I keep 6 feet away. That's why I stay in this. Yo, don't forget me. I'm sipping out of my ice cold Yeti. Or is that the Loch Ness monster on the spaceship to drop your toenails? It never fails when I chip that, ignite that. It's like a Furby. You can't curb these motions. I'm sipping beer like I'm floating in the ocean. I got the hella potion. Yo, I'm gonna be going to get some apples and oranges. I gotta break through these door hinges to get this. It's relentless like Marcus Smart. Yo, I'm on the green, pulling up on the scene with the education for this nation. You know I got these dimples, covering up these pimples. Back to Alabama, won't throw me in the slammer. Just hand you another hot rhyme. It's impressive, I bless this, I rip this. I don't even know that word, it's Ticonderoga. I'm gonna rip this like the boulders over your shoulder. Gronk, Gronk, honk. He's going to Tampa Bay so he can be with Tom Brady. They gonna play. I got this choice, it's not moist, it's so dry. I'm saying fly on it, a Band-Aid when I'm getting paid, aid when I'm gonna be pulling up to the shade. Tuna fish is delicious when I'm in this. Tampa Bay, that's number 12 when I delve into another hot rhyme. Blowing hot dogs on a lady, yo, that was crazy. Ocean potion floating, it's the ocean commotion. Oh no, that toilet paper's hella potent. You gotta get it, it's so expensive. Yo, those rhymes are so good, cause I'm extensive. I'm in this to win this to the finish. Yo, Jason Tatum, I can't hate him, I just got it, it's badass. Yo, 1 to the 2, I just wanna say thanks to each and all of you. I'm gonna leave that last word for you guys to ponder on.
Thank you, Devin. Before we do anything else, can I just say that I think that Devin just got us a new, our next event, which is that we just simply open up a chat and say whatever you want to write, but you have to write one thing.
Yeah.
Maybe, first of all, Devin, that was amazing. Well done. And then I just have to say, also the chat, the things that people came up with, also amazing. Well done as a group. All right, Turco, you're up.
I want to apologize for going off screen while you were singing there. I just bought your album, and thank you so much for performing for us. That was awesome, man.
Thank you guys so much. Keep doing what you're doing. I love supporting the movement, and I appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you.
And you can see on screen where you can find Devin's music, Devin Ferreira .bandcamp.com.
Well done, Devin.
Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Well, let's see what the help-o-meter is at right now. We are currently at $1,616. So thank you again, everyone, for your generosity tonight. We're pretty excited for all the money that we've been able to raise for this great cause tonight. Next up, we have a man after my own heart. So last time he was in the audience. He runs a brewery in Roslindale, Distraction Brewing, and he had mentioned that he was going to drop some surprises off for. I'm a police officer at MIT Police. I'm a captain with the police department. And he said he was going to drop a surprise off for some of our folks that are leaving their shift. And so he came by and he dropped off some of the beer from the brewery as people were coming off their shift. And then his wife, Joanna, was nice enough to drop off a 4-pack of their porter for me. And I cannot be more thankful for that. I've known Pat for 15 years now. He's performed as an actor, comedian, corporate improv trainer since 2002. And Akron, Ohio native. He has bounced between the Northeast Ohio region and Boston, Mass over the past 18 years, to keep things interesting. While in Boston, he's performed with Improv Boston main stage and in the angriest show in the world, a completely make-believe anger management seminar that inevitably spirals out of control every single time. During his time in Ohio, he co-founded Crooked River Comedy in Cleveland and was a proud cast member of Just Go With It Improv in Akron. He currently co-owns and runs the marketing PR for Distraction Brewing Company in Roslindale. You may have seen Patrick in a small, very tiny role opposite Frances McDormand in the Emmy-winning show HBO miniseries Oliver Kittredge. He also has appeared on TV commercials on ESPN, Sears, W.B. Mason, Chili's, and Papa Gino's Pizza. He typically plays the hapless office workers, annoying hipsters, and goofy suburban dads. Pat, we're so excited that you're here tonight. I think your wife tricked you into doing this, but we're so happy she did, and we're excited to hear your story.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Really happy to be here. And as you'll come to find, I think my wife, Joanna, has a knack for pushing me outside of my comfort zone and doing things. Although I'm very happy to do this, especially because it's for such a great cause and for great people. Like Turco said, I've known him for many years now, and I miss performing on stage with you, buddy. We got to make that happen again. So my story tonight is it's not about the Boston Marathon, but the Boston Marathon does make a cameo, as you'll find out here in a few minutes. It was the fall of 2011, and Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters were rocking out of the TD Garden. And they'd been wailing away for almost 3 hours at this point. Just an onslaught of roaring guitars, thunderous drums, and Dave's screeching voice. And they were about to come on for their third encore of the night. "We don't play 1-hour shows," he yelled from a mic backstage. "We don't play 2-hour shows. We don't play fucking 3-hour shows," he went on. "You know why? Because we fucking love to play. You guys are old like us now. You probably paid for a sitter to come out tonight. So we're going to make sure you get your fucking money's worth." Yeah! Now, my wife and I love the Foo Fighters. And he was right. We had gotten a sitter that night. And we wanted to get our money's worth. And on any other occasion, we would have nodded and thought, hell yeah, bring on that third fucking encore, Dave Grohl. But that night, you couldn't have found two more stoic people at a rock show. We were emotionally spent. As much as we love the Foo Fighters, that night we were only there for two reasons. One, we'd bought the tickets almost a year earlier and they were awesome seats. And two, we needed something to take our minds off of the cold, hard reality of the news we'd received just a few hours earlier. And the Foos were doing their best to accomplish that. So by this time, Joanna and I had been living in Boston for about a decade. We're both from Ohio originally, We met at Kent State University and were friends, or more acquaintances really, throughout college. But then we somehow managed to fall in love shortly after graduation in 2001, just 1 month before Joanna was set to move to Boston for grad school. So I made the completely logical, surefire decision to move out there as well. And I did, with no job lined up and $400 to my name, which totally seemed like absolutely enough money at the time. And did I mention we'd only been dating for a month, and she somehow agreed with me that I should come out. So that $400 lasted me about 2 weeks after a couple of dinners at a couple of restaurants. But thankfully, Joanna and I had much more staying power. We fell deeper in love and eventually got married. What I love most about her is she's always had a way, as I alluded to earlier, of inspiring me to do things outside my comfort zone, which has honestly helped me grow as a person, in most cases. I could tell you about the time she got me to strap on a pair of rollerblades and stumble up and down the Esplanade like a newborn deer. But I won't go into that. That's another time. It was also her, though, that pushed me into taking my first improv class at the Improv Asylum in the North End, which eventually led to me becoming active in the Boston comedy scene alongside Turco and Jay Bein, who we heard from earlier. And performing has remained a huge part of my life ever since. So she's good for me. In 2008, we had our first child, Timmy, now Tim, because he's 11 years old, going on 30. New parent stress aside, we were figuring it out, and the whole thing was exhilarating. Those were really awesome days. And I'd always wanted kids, but hadn't really thought through how it would affect my life. And you always hear that cliche, having kids will change your life. I'm still the first to gag whenever I hear that. But I also can't deny the truth behind it. It does change your life, profoundly. You suddenly care a whole lot less about yourself. I mean, having a kid kills at least 75% of your ego. It was also powerful to see how it changed Joanna. She admittedly was never really a kid person. But when Tim came along, it was clear. She was head over heels in love with him. A couple of more years passed and we were ready to have another kid. And we both had siblings ourselves growing up, and we wanted Timmy to experience the joy and excruciating pain that comes with having a sibling. So we started doing what you do to make a baby. And at first, it was awesome. We did it whenever we wanted. Because with Timmy, we got pregnant, no problem. In fact, you could say we weren't exactly trying to get pregnant with Timmy. It just sort of happened. In fact, it happened when Joanna was months into training for the Boston Marathon. And she ultimately ran the marathon while 8 weeks pregnant with Timmy. But that's her story to tell. I don't want to steal her thunder. So maybe a future booking. So we're trying to make another baby. A few months pass and we're not getting pregnant. And suddenly we started to feel some pressure. We consulted our doctor and researched the best ways to get pregnant. Our most trusted source, the internet, told us that we had to figure out our fertile days. And also that missionary style is always best because it allows sperm to pool in the vagina, giving them an edge in swimming toward the egg. Needless to say, it got us very aroused. So things got very scheduled. I mean, we mapped out when, where, and how frequently to do it, whether or not we were in the mood. It was hot. And by that I mean I was sweating a lot from the effort. But we ultimately made it happen. Joanna got pregnant. I tell you, we were excited, and we were, but we were mostly relieved that the nightmarish robot sex was over. So now we just had to wait a bit before we shared the news with family and friends. So if you read up on this, everyone tells you you're really supposed to wait until you're at least 12 weeks pregnant before sharing the news because, before that, the risk of miscarriage is pretty high. So we're very good at waiting for things and keeping secrets and waited until week 6. We just couldn't help ourselves. We were too excited and we happened to be on vacation with Joanna's family. So the timing seemed kind of perfect and we broke the news and everyone was thrilled. And that just kind of, took the lid off it. We told our friends, told our neighbors, our coworkers. We put it out on Facebook probably. At 10 weeks, she also even had a little baby bump. So we were feeling great. So then we had our first appointment with the doctor. And this is an exciting one. We're going to get to hear our baby's heartbeat. So Joanna gets up on the table. The doctor puts that weird jelly all over her belly and then puts this thing called a fetal Doppler on it so the main event could begin. And then we listened and listened and listened. Didn't hear anything. The doctor looked a little concerned, but said this can happen sometimes. So she sent us down to radiology to get a sonogram. Now, the radiologist could not have been more of a robot. I was watching her face the whole time, trying to get some sense of reaction from her, but I saw nothing. After what seemed like hours, it was probably only a few minutes, she looked up, made direct eye contact with us and said, "I'm sorry, but you've lost the baby." And my wife, without missing a beat, said, "No, I didn't lose the baby. I know exactly where it is." Here's a little PSA for you if you're ever a radiologist. Don't tell a pregnant lady she's lost her baby. She's miscarried. She didn't lose it like you lose a pair of sunglasses. Just a few hours earlier, we were on top of the world, and now everything was upside down. And Joanna was beside herself, and all I could do was hold her. I was upset, but also I felt this immediate, severe embarrassment. We told pretty much everyone in our lives we were pregnant. And now we basically had to say, never mind. Over the next few weeks, we slowly got the word out. And it was brutal, especially when people unknowingly asked how Joanna was feeling. I would respond, well, actually, and I'll tell you, it was awful seeing the realization on their faces. And I found myself in the weird position of trying to make them feel better for asking. And I was also ashamed of myself for feeling shame about the miscarriage, if that makes any sense. But it wasn't a total shitstorm. Tons of people, some we knew well and some we didn't, told us that they had gone through the exact same thing, which was comforting for us to hear. Time passed. We were still grieving the loss, but we were also encouraged by the fact that there wasn't anything wrong with us. We weren't broken. We can make another baby. We really could. So we started trying again. And if you recall how difficult it was that I said it was for me to perform the last time around, well, now imagine that pressure on steroids. It was miserable. I was miserable. It was rigid, urgent, no joy. Each of us with the facial expression of just someone trying to defuse a bomb with seconds ticking off the clock. We tried everything: sexy lingerie, porn. I'd occasionally do push-ups beforehand just so I could feel a little more manly and beefy. But my body would not cooperate. It got so bad that the only erections I could count on were involuntary ones, the old morning wood. I'd wake Joanna up and say, "Come on, I don't know how long this will last," and then get down to business. But as soon as we started, my brain would screw me and prevent me from screwing my wife effectively. This internal voice, for some reason sounding like Arnold Schwarzenegger, would start chiming in with pep talks. "Come on, Patrick, do it. You've got to ejaculate to make a baby, come on." And these pep talks would always result in the same thing: absolute failure. Joanna was understandably frustrated, and one night erupted with, "You better not be masturbating when I'm not around." To which I replied, "I'm not, and you can't control what I do." But somehow, against all odds, we got pregnant again. We were reserved. As the weeks progressed, we got more encouraged. We started planning how to fit 2 kids into our small 2-bedroom apartment and had our eye on a Big Brother t-shirt for Timmy. By week 6, it happened again. Joanna had a sonogram at the doctor's, and we found out that she was having an ectopic pregnancy, which meant her egg was fertilized in the fallopian tube instead of the uterus. In other words, we weren't having a baby. I couldn't have felt more powerless in that moment. And I could only imagine the depths of the pain Joanna felt. It's crazy enough, if you think about it, to know that you have a living thing growing inside you. But then to have it die inside you twice is crushing. Our doctor tried to comfort us in that moment by explaining that miscarriages are insignificant, quite normal, that there was nothing wrong with us. But to us, it was devastating. We'd been through an emotional tilt-a-whirl. The excitement of getting pregnant, to the shock of finding out it failed, to disappointment, and finally grief. We left the doctor's office and immediately went into self-care mode. We made our way to our favorite Mexican place and shoved burritos into our faces like there was no tomorrow. And as we ate, we realized we had to make an important decision. Would we, or would we not, go to the Foo Fighters concert that night? While tempted to sell the tickets or just not go, we ultimately decided that it would be good for us to just suck it up. Don't wallow. Get a little drunk on overpriced beer, maybe a lot drunk, and let Dave Grohl scream our ears until they rang. It was the right decision. It helped us push all the bad shit aside for a moment and just be a couple on a date. Months passed, our ears recovered, and without really trying, we got pregnant again. And this time, it stuck. Danny French is about to turn 7 at the end of next month, and Tim French is one hell of a big brother. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. That was really great, man. I think your story really speaks to it speaks to the magic of what we're, and the difficulty of what we're experiencing right now. And for me, and maybe some of the rest of you tonight, stories kind of, I think for millennia or longer, they've brought us together, whether it was around a campfire or staring at the Zoom screen, and make us feel normal again and let us connect in a way that otherwise we can. And sometimes it can be through humor, and sometimes it's through a really difficult story. But tonight, for the first time in this whole kind of crazy time that we're dealing with right now, going to work and being on a bus and a subway seems like it's been a decade ago. And I was talking with my wife Erin tonight about just kind of how hard this is, and dealing with this, and how we're in such a strange moment. And I just want to, I'm so thankful that people have, donated tonight to donate money to this fantastic cause. But even more than that, I'm so thankful that people came together tonight. And even though we can't be together in person, it's really nice to be able to connect with people. And I really appreciate, people coming together and people sharing their stories. And, on a lighter note, I want to say that there was a time in my life where I thought David Grohl was the drummer from Nirvana and nothing more. And I'll tell you what, if you think rock and roll is dead, you go to a Foo Fighters concert, because that guy is insane. I saw him at Jazz Fest in New Orleans, and it was one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. And I'm glad that the Foo Fighters could shed some light, and hell of a band. Anyway, we have one more story tonight. We're going to wrap up the evening. Our final story is by Matthew Love. Matthew is a Brooklyn-based writer whose byline has appeared in Rolling Stone, the New York Times Vulture, Time Out New York, and many others. He's a consulting producer for the NPR staple Selected Shorts, and hosts a comedy debate series, Uptown Showdown. He's also a Moth Story Slam winner. Matthew, we're excited that you're here tonight. We're excited that you're wrapping up the night for us. The floor is yours, man.
Actually, it's not yours yet, Matt. Sorry. I'm going to talk for a second. You know why? It's because I can, actually. But I want to, let me just say from the start, Matt Love is not only all of those things, he is also my sister-in-law's brother, and hilarious and witty and amazing. And I just want to say that this November, actually, I think the day before Thanksgiving it was, my mom had her hip replaced. And the Circus Strongman, yes, thank you. I just thought I'd point that out. I think it's fair to say that the reason why my mom didn't struggle quite as much with what was not an easy surgery was because she had Matt around to joke with. So this man did a lot for my family, and welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And thank you, Andrew and Michael and everyone for having me. And thanks for sticking around till the end. I'm so excited to be a part of this, to even have an appointment where there's a day and a time to do something is wonderful, which I really appreciate it. I don't know about you, but to me, there's no running here, but I have had a fair amount of time to sit around with my possessions and stare at all the things that I've acquired. And it would remind me that, so my ex was not a religious person, but she believed in the gospel of Marie Kondo, which I don't know if you know Kondo, but she is a lifestyle guru who wrote this decluttering manifesto called The Life-Changing Art of Tidying Up. Now, before it was a Netflix series, it was just a book, and my ex read the book cover to cover. She read the cover, and she read the preface, and then probably skimmed some of the other parts, but she learned two very important things. Number one, if something doesn't bring you joy, you throw it away. It doesn't spark joy in you, you throw it away. And number two, stack your t-shirts vertically. And that's it. If we followed those two simple rules, it meant that we were unburdened and no longer attached to material possessions. So, and I felt like the promise is like walking through your apartment after this is just one long tactile explosion of joy where you're just like hello plant, joy, framed photo, joy, coffee mug, joy, like it all just, who doesn't want that? So my ex went at it with all of the fervor of a new convert. She dug through her side of the closet and her drawers, and the enthusiasm spilled over into my part of the closet and the drawers. And we started this fun little ritual where she would locate something and then she would walk into our kitchen with real gravity and with something draped, a shirt perhaps draped over her extended hands, and she would catch my eye and continue with sort of funereal reverence toward the trash can, where she would hover over and sort of look into the abyss and wait for me. And I was allowed to scurry up like a supplicant and stare around and look at the whatever beloved garment that she was holding before she said those magical Kondo words, "Thank you for your service," and then gently toss the shirt like the high priestess, delivers the toothless grandma into the maw of the volcano to supplicate the gods, that sort of thing. And I think some people would find if someone digs in your drawers, it might feel like an invasion. It wasn't. I did not feel that. And here's why. I'm not very good at throwing out clothes. I'm not a hoarder, but if I think that I could get one more wear out of it, I'm keeping it. And you can get one more wear out of almost anything. To me, it's like being fanatically pragmatic. And that's why I would wear socks with holes, or pilly sweaters that are getting threadbare, or that sort of underwear where the elastic is so worn that you have to sort of cinch it to your waist in order to keep it there. Some of you probably understand that, and the rest of you are probably looking at the screen with some sort of concern or revulsion, and I get that. I get it. All of my family members have dealt with this little quirk of mine for years. And all of my friends have expressed, well, I mean, some of them are worried. My sartorial style to them has been occasionally referred to as a cry for help. And I feel like on more than one occasion, my loved ones have met me in public and given me that look that is like, as though it looked like I had just emerged after sleeping in the dry bed of the Central Park fountain for the last 3 weeks and then just crawled out of it to get to the Italian restaurant. So if you're weirded out, I get it. You probably would sympathize with my ex's very stringent rules about, things being threadbare. But there was one garment that got a pass for my ex. It was the potholder shirt. That's how we came to know it. We, like a year or so into our 6-year-long relationship, we went upstate New York to a refurbished barn where there were hiking trails and farmers markets. And it was, like the Brooklyn hipster cookie cutter retreat. Yes, but we didn't care. We were in love. We made dinners, and during one of these dinners, we were cooking the requisite Brussels sprouts in the stove, and the timer went off, and we suddenly realized without potholders, we overturned drawers and swept through the closets and could not find one. So I whipped off my shirt like you do, and I pulled out the pan of Brussels sprouts and slapped them on the countertop and realized about 2 minutes later that there were 3 potholders carefully placed next to the stove, the last place we looked for some reason. So after wetting ourselves laughing, we looked at the shirt, which had been permanently damaged. It had an almond-shaped slit sort of over the left shoulder. But it was still a good shirt. I wore it with pride at our house. It was an undershirt. And then whenever I wore it, she would smile, and sometimes she would reach out and like pet me through the hole, which that's an additional reason to wear it. But not long after my ex had converted to condo, several years later, there was a day I was wearing the potholder shirt, and she saw it, and she narrowed her eyes at me, and she said, "You're still wearing that." And the tone of voice, I recognized it was one that was usually directed at other people for their missteps or misdeeds, but never to me. So, I was just a little hurt and a little confused by it, but I just, let it go. And it wasn't until like later in hindsight, I realized why it was, why it affected me. She dismissed this thing that I thought we both agreed was sacred. This wasn't just like a scrap of the usual crappy cotton that we were going to throw in the trash. This was like a piece of our, our courtship, our early courtship. And it was like a great story to tell the kids if we ever had them. Why would she ever want to condo something that was a part of our history? And it was like a couple of months after that disregard. It probably doesn't surprise you from the tone, but, she abruptly broke things off. And that was 2 years ago. And I've had a fair amount of time to consider why, in many things, but one of the things why I think, why Marie Kondo appealed to her. She's got a very exacting personality and like requires all of the people and places and things in her life, there's very high bar for them. So one stray thread, one stray comment, you might end up in the trash heap and not really know why you ended up being a joyless object to her. You just might not know. I thought because she loved that shirt, because she knew the story of that shirt, and she saw its idiosyncratic scar, like that it got a pass. Likewise, I thought because she loved me and she knew my story and my idiosyncratic scars that I got to pass. But in the end, I feel like we were both just as disposable. The pictures, pictures have been burned and emails have been deleted since then. And believe it or not, like, I'm actually better at managing my wardrobe a little bit. The holy socks, there are a lot fewer of them. I still have the potholder shirt, which I know it's not, I'm not pining for her, and I'm not pining for what the relationship of what it was, but the shirt itself is wrecked. Like, there's a slit. The slit is as long as the entire back. There's little tiny holes around the neck, and it's a little stained in the pits. It's in terrible shape. I would never wear it outside of the house, but I still have it. And I'm wondering why. Like, in the long run, is this object, what's the value of me keeping this thing? Am I being stubborn, like holding on to some piece of who I was, still a little bit, or is it aggressive? Like, I'm holding on to this proof where I had faith in some part of the relationship that she did not. It feels to me like if it's, sentimentality, it's misplaced. And if it's any sort of vengeance, it's completely empty. I also feel, though, in this moment when I'm staring at this shirt, I don't think I'm alone in kind of like having this weird communion with objects. I feel like where many of us are individually and even culturally at present, we're all kind of sitting around our stuff and contemplating all of the reminders of the things that we've been and wondering what kind of value they have. I feel like it's important to mourn the things, that the people and places that are gone, the things that may never come back. And it's also important to understand history so we don't repeat it. But I also feel it's equally important to clear the ground, to make space for whatever is going to come up next. I'm fairly certain that I can retain the love and the faith and the things that I invested that are in this totemic shirt without the object itself. I think so. And though I never converted to condo, I do feel soon, when the day soon comes, when I'm standing over the trash can holding this piece of fabric that's also a little tiny piece of history, that if you're there, I might actually whisper, "Thank you for your service." And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. If it makes you feel better, Marie Kondo is a serial killer. I know he's stolen many t-shirts that were threadbare and a little more form-fitting than I would have liked, but I feel your pain. I want to thank everyone for being a part of this tonight. I had a fantastic time. It's great to be able to kind of scroll through and see different people's faces as we're going through this. And I just want to give everyone a final tally of what we raised tonight. We raised $1,616. Some money rolling in, so the actual total is probably going to be a little higher. So thank you so much for your generosity tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your stories. It was so fantastic to be able to bring people together, give people a night away, give people a night of reflection and a night of togetherness. And I couldn't be more thankful for being able to spend this night with all of you. So,
Turco, before you end it, I want to say something.
Go for it.
If you don't mind. Thank you. Excuse me. So first of all, I definitely want to say the same that Turco just said. And everybody, thank you so much. we really appreciate everything that everybody is doing, no matter what it is. I also want to, of course, thank all of our storytellers. You were all fantastic. We really appreciate it, as well as Devin and Owen for also participating. You guys were great. I think it's important, though, that we also point out that while we are doing this as a fundraiser, as much as anything, this is a community event. And we at Boston for All have done what we can throughout, a few years now to try to create as many community events as we can. And we understand that while we're able to raise some funds and do some good stuff, that's nice, but that's not really as much what this is about as all of us being able to come together. So if we host another one of these, which hopefully we will, and you don't feel that, and you feel like things are starting to feel hard for you, which we understand things are feeling hard for everybody, you do not have to give to be a part of this. What we really want is for you to be a part of this, for you to be community with us. So whatever you can give is great, and we'll make sure that all of it goes to a good cause. We don't keep any of it, but that's not what we're about. What we're about is all of us being together, because we know that as much as anything, or more than anything right now, what we need is to be together. So I just wanted to say that before we left. Thank you so much, Andrew Turco, who, just so everybody knows, is not only the MC, but is the idea man. He's the one who made this happen. He came to me a while ago with this idea, and we started working together to do it. Thank you to all of you. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna unmute right now. You guys have sat there patiently and quietly. If you have anything to say, feel free. Otherwise, we will end it because it might get a little weird, but you know what? You don't have to be muted the whole time. So speak up if you'd like. At that point, because it might be weird, maybe what we'll say is, thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody. Oh, and I want to say this one last thing. If anybody is interested in telling a story you can find us at bostonforall@gmail.com. That would be awesome. Thank you so much. Turco, you want to say any last things?
Yeah, so we're probably going to roll in another one of these in a couple of weeks. If we haven't come up with a theme for the third night, but tonight was fantastic. The quality of stories and the sharing and bringing everybody together. And Jeremy, thank you for saying that point about the point is not necessarily to raise money, but to bring people together. So although it's nice to raise money, the really the highlight of this is seeing everyone's faces and it being as close as we can be tonight. So thank you all, and we're looking forward to seeing you all again.
Stay healthy, everybody. Be well.
Take care.